Okay.
Well, when the time was a lot better at the time. You know.
Hey, friends, we're gonna bring these folks in a minute.
Campaign of the 70s. My mother from Trinidad, slow story, but why do you think I really take some details?
Okay. I mean, I sent you too much information.
I get it now. I'm looking
Okay.
at it.
Okay, now I have to let you in. Okay, letting you in. We said-
Recording in progress.
Oh, we got too much. So you you can use mine instead of using yours and mine.
David, can you hear me?
Oh, I was gonna leave, I'm sorry. Leave the mute button?
Hello, everyone. Yes, indeed.
Greetings. I apologize, David. I missed your email. My apologies. I thought that we were set for tomorrow, so my regrets. Give us just a couple of minutes, okay?
Yes, I've got someone helping me and she's not available tomorrow. That's
No, we can do it tonight, but we just need a couple of minutes. Andrew, how
Sure.
to increase the volume here? Okay, just 1 second.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
So David, can you speak? I want to make sure I hear you loud enough.
Hello, Stuart, and hello, Andrew. Hello, everyone. Is
Good.
that
Okay, we have a lovely circle here. And thank you, Kristina, for your help.
Okay.
David is shining. It's beautiful to see him. So give us just a minute. There are a couple of more that'll be joining us.
sure?
And we have Corin coming
yeah.
as well from Bermuda.
Yes.
Yeah.
This one, you got the.
Okay. Just 1 second.
You said.
Just 1 moment.
I need my when you get a chance.
Okay, myself in. Stop the blurring in the background. Stop. There. Yeah, let myself in. Yes, I can see us better.
We can hear you and you can see the background.
Don't make your plate.
But are you able to call Corinne and just let him know that we're,
We had another time when there was war, everybody knew where to go. Right, like, you know, what needed to be done, there was a war, right, in the emergency response. But here's the thing, it's like today, all the. Also made TV more and be able to be funny when the other person doesn't see it, right?
and folks, can we gather? So if we can gather, please. So we have here, friends, a guest from Australia. And I'm going to put this so everybody can see. This is David Skews. And David has been bearing an impulse, a very significant impulse we've talked about with Corinne and Huda, which is for multicultural festivals, whereby we can come together united by what we share in common as humanity. And David has truly, he's a man in his 80s now. He's truly devoted himself to this task for humankind. He's here supported by a colleague of his in Australia. So I'm going to turn the computer around and David invites you to share of this impulse and feel free to take whatever time. You know, we can be flexible with respect to time. There's no pressure. But this is seminal. And what, David, I'm not sure. I think actually we did discuss what's happening this weekend is, I believe, unprecedented and historic. And that is for 53 years, we've celebrated Earth Day on the 22nd. But our Earth is ailing. And so what we're inaugurating tomorrow, the 23rd, is what we're calling Mother Earth and Father Sun, or Solar Day. That is, how can the two come together in the truest sense of the word and complement one another so that we can give birth to a new creation? So this is, I would say, an historic event that we're doing tonight. I'm going to turn the computer around and invite you to address those that are here. And no rush, take your time, David.
Thank you. Thank you. Greetings. So you're ready to hear something, and I'm happy to meet with you all.
Greetings. Louder? Can we hear
Greetings.
that? Thank you. That's a lot of
So
loud. Turn the audio up, please.
It is all the way up.
Can you use your little speaker?
If I am able to do so, let's see here. I may have it here.
David, just 1 second.
sure.
We want to make sure that we hear you.
I'll speak up a bit more too.
Please.
How's that? Is that okay?
Just 1 second.
And I believe it's already on. I've got you connected over there. I've got to disconnect from over here.
David, try, if you can speak louder, let's see if everybody can hear, okay?
Sure, okay. Shall we make a start now or what?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And are we recording this? Andrew?
Yes, I already started recording.
David, the floor is yours, as loud as you're able to without straining.
Thank you, everyone. Well, if I do drop in volume, just let me know somehow or other in course and I'll adjust. So again, very warm greetings to everyone. I was up fairly early this morning, very early, to see the autumn here. It's autumn here, with the mists and the leaves all changing in the garden to different colours. And it's very appropriate to think of Earth Day here and the other side of the world in this hemisphere, with the sun forces on the decrease, and in your place the sun forces are on the increase. Now I have some notes here, and I used these notes the other day when Kristina and I made a video, and we've sent that through too. And it was going to be, and still might be to some degree, that I use these notes, but I'm going to be now off script. For a while, I'm going to be off script and say a few things that I hadn't intended to say, a bit risque perhaps, because I'm going to come in from Stuart's introduction and give some history of how I came to this vision, among others who have similar visions, of universal humanity and the earth being. So I was teaching in my last years in 2006, before my retirement, and I had a craft lesson. I always wanted to relate my craft lessons to other work I was doing, to have an integrated curriculum. But to manage my craft lesson, I invited parents and grandparents into my room to help. And one grandparent, Anne, I got to know very well. Now, Anne rang me one day and said, well, look, could you please help me, David? As I go through my walking meditation early in the morning, I feel a presence with me that wants to speak, and wants to speak to you too, David. Now, I was awfully busy and I thought this is just another thing to deal with in a busy life. But I realized that when karma comes one's way, one has to respond. So I entered into some weeks of dialogue with Anne, mostly over the phone. And it came that she and I were receiving information, as it were, through images and sometimes words, though not words one could hear, but in the mind, of attempts to say to us that something important needed to be said from the other side. I won't go into the details here. That's my claim. I know there are all sorts of issues and questions and cautions about such phenomenon, but I'll just leave that as a rest, as introduction now. And so what happened, we had sessions every week, sometimes twice a week together, but at a distance, but in inner communion, Anne and I. And we were receiving promptings of mind and heart. And what I need to say here is that these promptings were nothing at all in the sense of mediumship or automatic channeling or anything like that. It was a free, open, loving communication, though not in words that we always understand, with other beings. And we believe they were in the spiritual worlds. Can you all hear me?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you. So whatever you make of that, and I've spent a long time with it, so I'm not asking people to accept that just like that. These images and words came to us, and something that came to both of us separately, Anne and I, was the phrase, save the children, save the children. And seeing I was in teaching and education, we thought naturally that it meant how can we work better with the young children I was teaching and with children generally, what new impulses for education. And so we responded, Anne and I, to this and worked for 18 months or so with these beings' presences, if you like, on all sorts of themes to do with education and development of children, curriculum, and I've noted that in the book. And then one day, early in the morning, it came to me that we were on a wrong track. Not wrong, but a different track. And these beings, communicators we'll call them, were leaving us free to find our own way. They weren't compelling us in a certain direction or telling us things. It was a free communication, intercourse with them, exchange, a loving free exchange. And it came to me, what is happening here? And I'm not special, it's happening to people all around the world and to your group too in different ways, that the children, save the children, were the children of what? Humanity, of humanity. And then we took another track and I asked the question, do you mean humanity? And they said, yes, we need to have co-workers like yourselves and others all around the world to try and build a more fluent, more spiritually conscious, more intercultural, interfaith capacity across humanity, not making light of all the difficulties we face. And there was a second part of this. Throughout many of the communications, they spoke to Anne and I about the tremendous suffering that the mother, that is the earth soul, the earth being, was going through by the ways we, as general humanity, have been exploiting it and abusing it. And so that became a twin interest, how to bring this consciousness in our own small way and how to recognize Mother Earth, so fitting for Earth Day. So that was our work for over 10 years. And I've documented that and I'm still documenting that. The work goes on with several people helping. A massive work to put down, trying to respond to these impulses and try to bring some clarity and interpretation. And there's nothing dictated from these beings as to what we should do and how to think. They were just there to support. And often when I'd ask questions, they would say, then it's your creativity and initiative. These are some guidelines. Work it out yourself. And in fact, they don't know all the answers, they said. It's a process and project together. So Earth Day, very fitting this. So Stuart suggested, among others making the suggestion, that my 2015 booklet, A New Festival Cycle, could be of interest to some people who are celebrating Earth Day. And so this is what we're doing now. My festival book, it's called a festival book, is to do with intercultural, multi-faiths communion and communication and sharing. And I'll come back to what I mean by that a little bit later in more detail. But the guiding principle is the guiding principle of the ideal, and we'll reach this ideal eventually, of a common humanity on the one earth under the one divine presence. Now, this is a very tricky area because we all have different nuances and syntax and understandings of a divine presence, if indeed we believe in such a thing, and not just to think it conceptually, but to experience it. But it's my proposition and view that everyone, atheist, whatever, in Hinduism, Islam, whatever, there are groups of people that share a certain maturity about this beyond the trappings of religion and symbols and rituals that are very helpful, not to be discarded. But at one level, we can transcend but not leave behind much of this. And so it's a festival to do with bridging cultures and faiths and non-faiths, to reach people, to speak to people, to engage with people, to learn from people who have the highest of themselves in them, the goodness of their own human hearts and minds, to come together. It's not the only thing that's happening in the globe across the world, but it's something that came as the impulse from Anne and myself. Now, very importantly, I was thinking this through, the communicators, we'll call them, were very interested in my interest in the cycle of the natural year and the seasons in particular. And the natural year, of course, has the cycle of day, night, and other rhythms too, all very important. But my interest in particular was the cycle of the seasons. And so that was a very keen interest of the communicators. And for those of us who are in esoteric Christianity, and I'm not saying one ought to be this way or that way, but in some circles, the view is that the Christ being, who is a universal being, not just a religious person for a religious group, but the Christ being the Logos, the I am in all humanity, whatever name we give this. I close my eyes as I talk to try and bring the images into myself, is trying to be made mature, robust, fruitful in all of us. And how do we do this when we have Christian festivals, Islamic festivals, Hindu festivals, all sorts of different rituals, all very important and should stay with us? And I thought, yes, if we could find something in which we're all participants, and this something will be the cycle of the seasons. We all, even on the equatorial levels and belts, we all have this rhythm of the seasons. How can we bring the seasons, even though these seasonal patterns are under stress today, how can we nevertheless bring this seasonal rhythm of summer, autumn, winter, spring and back to summer? These are the archetypes. In Australia, you might have 8 seasons in the north of Australia, but that's irrelevant. Whatever the rhythm is, within this rhythm, according to some esoteric Christian sciences, within this rhythm, the Christ being, I'm coming back to this now, after Golgotha, becomes a universal Christ and has its embodiment, her embodiment within the cycles and the breathings and the rhythms and the pulsings of Mother Earth. This is what I'm putting forward. Whether we all accept this is another thing, but it's sort of my foundation. But the festivals I'm going to suggest need not have you believe this or not believe this. It's a thought. The festivals have its own sort of logic irrespective. My own background is, well, a long story. I was in an evangelical church as a child for a long time. I found my way to Quakers, the Society of Friends. I found my way into anthroposophy, and I've been teaching in Waldorf schools and government state schools here at all levels and even into university. And the booklet, we should say, that Stuart suggested we have a look at is a summary book of what I came to. And I wrote this out of the impulse of my early church time, out of my Quaker experience, and out of anthroposophy. But the booklet itself is written in terminology somewhat that speaks to the anthroposophical Rudolf Steiner community, because that was the group, the community to whom I was trying to communicate through that book. But nevertheless, I'm asking people who have a different faith tradition or no faith tradition to accept with grace and gratitude, I hope, the principles of what I'm trying to describe, the leading thoughts, and translate those principles and leading thoughts into their own mental and emotional syntax, nuances, inflections. And the whole book is, or booklet, I have other books, of course, on the same theme. How do we celebrate and reach into universal humanity and the Christ I am within that? Whatever name we give Christ, whatever way we celebrate Christ within our tradition. So that is sort of a beginning. I don't mind if it's translated into humanistic terms. That's something I have a project to do myself. Haven't got to that. I just ask for your goodwill. Now, there's no blueprint, step-by-step what to do manual in the book or my other books, just suggestions. We leave people free, but there's some sort of basics. So I'll come to those now. It is my contention to try and reach across boundaries and divisions, that we appeal to the best in people, not through just intellect or conferences of words and concepts, but through the arts, that we communicate to each other, dance with each other through poetry, song, drama, ritual, meditative practice, dance itself, music, whatever goes on. And this we celebrate and use for our festival expression. Turning my page. Are we going all right? You can hear? Thank you.
Yes, I can hear. Thanks.
David,
Hello, yes.
can I read this paragraph that we looked at before? Just let you catch your breath and to give them it in a nutshell, and then for you to build on that. Is that okay?
Beautiful, thank you, Stuart.
Is that okay?
Yep.
So this is from this book, and I'll have copies if anybody else wants it. Right. Why are the communicators communicating? A synopsis of those communications spanning several years, and I thought it was lovely. I didn't know this background, that he had called upon the parents and grandparents of his students to join him in this process of bringing them this education towards freedom. And one called him up and said, David, I keep hearing these spirits speaking to me, and they want me to listen, but they want you to listen with me. That's what he's responding to. So, why are the communicators communicating? A synopsis of those communications spanning several years that deals significantly with this question discloses that the stated intent of the communicators is to encourage incarnate humanity, or rather potent sections thereof, to formulate and engage in a worldwide intercultural festival cycle. The central purpose of this festival cycle will be to celebrate the universality of humanity, a universality that is potentially inclusive of many differences between individuals and cultures, while also transcending the hard boundaries of nationality. This new festival cycle will serve as a further reminder of our shared humanity upon our shared home, the earth, sustained by the one life force, divine matrix. However, this source may be humanly, metaphysically, symbolically conceived. This new festival cycle will be as leaven in the broad dough of humanity, working unobtrusively to raise the consciousness of humanity towards that of its own higher self. Emerson said, we rise to meet. Only when we rise do we truly meet. This self is sometimes described or named as the inherent archetypal Christ principle or presence. And David and I discussed the Greek word Christos means son. A translation of X-R-I-S-T-O-S is son. So this isn't narrow and denominational. The leaven will also function as an integrating agent for world humanity. It will work towards humanity's social, cultural reconciliation across the globe, arising from the premise that all humanity partakes in a potential human divinity and in a shared world destiny. Please, David, carry on, and we have time.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, everyone. So, we have the earth, this wonderful natural phenomenon. But we have the earth, which is more than the earth that we see with our physical senses. We know this through intuition or clairvoyance, perhaps. We have the earth's soul. It's a living, sentient being. And so much of current deep ecology speaks to this. And so much of modern, though partly fringe science, but not only fringe now, becoming mainstream science, speaks to this, speaks to the earth as having soul and sentience. It's not just a matter of ecosystems. These systems are all organs in the one soul. The health of one system affects the health of all the others. But starting from a macro level, the earth breathes like the human being. It breathes in and breathes out. And from a literal level, this happens through the seasons, but on a metaphysical, esoteric level, this happens too, with the subtle energies of the earth. And from spring and into summer, the earth hemisphere, I say hemisphere, and you're going into this now as breathing out, while here in this hemisphere, it's a breathing in, autumn into winter. Of course, the breathing out and in really starts from the solstice times, winter and summer. But at the equinoxes and at the springtime in particular, you have the growth of new life in your hemisphere now, on a physical level, but also on a supersensible level. And here we have an interesting, for me, wondrous thought that the soul of the earth, or the earth's planetary being, is a twin polar monism. What do I mean by that? It means, it's in some of Steiner's lectures, several lectures, this concept, this idea, that when one half of the earth, the northern hemisphere, is breathing out, the other half of the world, the planet, hemisphere is breathing in. And then after a while, 6 months, there's a swap around. It's like a mobile yin-yang, a mandala in movement. And there's a breathing out while there's a breathing in. And the breathing, the opposite goes on and on continually. And this is far more sophisticated in some sense than the human soul. It's a remarkable thing to think. It can breathe in and out at the same time, and its consciousness moves somewhat from one hemisphere to the next, as does the Christ. Doesn't mean the Christ is not present everywhere, but an aspect of this I am Christ being follows the rhythm of the seasons, because the Christ, as we said before, is somehow or other intricate and incarnate within this breathing cycle, this rhythm. Now, I come from my own contemplations with this. So the equinoxes are very important, and particularly the spring equinox where you are now, or just beyond it now you are. For me, they are mid or medium zones, or mediation zones, or potent phases of transmission. You have all this new life around you now where you're living in a physical sense, but also on an etheric, we can say, supersensible way. And so I'm proposing that our festivals, if we take this up, or those who want to participate, take the spring festival in any hemisphere as the lead time, and into spring, into summer with the out-breath. It's the festival of spring, which is nodal and potentially the impulse to work from. And that hemisphere in the spring, its spring takes the lead. And the other hemisphere, which we could say metaphorically is the moon hemisphere, is following. And then the dancers on the earth dance floor, who follows then becomes the leader, and the leader then becomes the follower. It's a dance where one leads the other, but then they take turns. And so expansion and contractions, rhythms and pulses, twin polar monism. Because when the Christ, in esoteric terms at least, we could say, ascended into heaven, ascended more so into the aura of the planet, and progressively did so and still is doing so. So this might mean 2 festivals in a calendar year, or could be conceived as one festival with the springtime in one hemisphere. We have to work this out. I'm suggesting 2 festivals, a spring in one hemisphere, then a spring in the next. So we have in one calendar year 2 festival events, whether this is over some hours or some days. This is for people to fashion for themselves. Very importantly, 2 things, 3 things. Through the arts and through the motif of universal humanity and the planet, the Mother Earth, the Earth Soul, these twin things, intercultural, interfaith, and beyond. The festival, what do you do in a festival? Well, I'm suggesting we ideate, we move towards these ideals, whatever way we express this through the arts, and there will be a link across the earth accordingly. Secondly, I'm not asking, this is where it gets confusing. Some people think, oh, David's trying to form a new ecumenical occasion, different parts of the world. I'm not saying that directly, that may be a good thing. Ecumenical meetings I've been to have been wonderful, where people from different traditions or non-traditions come together and find a common ground. Wonderful. I'm trying to make it a bit more radical than this and say that those in Islamic communities or atheist communities, or whatever community, Christian communities, who want to participate in this, be it just 2 or 3 people or whole groups of people, construct for themselves something they're comfortable with, something they know from the depths of their being through their tradition, language and mental structure and emotional structure, something they can use from within their tradition to formulate their response in their festival gathering. So it's a culturally imbued festival from the roots and the heart and the passions of those people within that particular tradition, drawing also on the geographical, environmental images and pictures around them as well, whatever they want to bring in, which is local, but also universal, because in spirit, we're uniting around the one ideal and impulse. And I'll also say, and I'll finish very soon, that we're not attempting to replace Christian, Hindu, Islamic festivals. They stay. They're very important for all of us in our own ways. This is something like a supplement for those who want to participate. It may be a growing number of people over the years to bring another level where we're not bound by a Christian religion ritual or Hindu ritual. These things are very wonderful, but it's hard to translate these almost fixities that are necessary for that time and tradition and place into something now we need a Michaelic, we sometimes say, global consciousness, an ideal humanity we're striving towards. This is why we're using the festival cycle through the seasons. So I think I might wrap up here. I've held your attention for a while, but before we finish, I'm going to ask my dear friend Kristina, who's stayed the night so we could be here on time together. She can't come tomorrow. She's got other duties, but I've asked her to read something, which I've sent to Stuart and others as well. And all I'm saying is we help each other find our way. I would like to be very, very involved in giving some guidance if we set such things up, at least for the short while, if not a bit longer, because I've been sitting with this for so long and I can be of great help. But I'm not going to be a dictator or tell you what to do. If I'm asked, I'll be trying to say, well, look, this is how I conceive it. This is how I've imaged it. And yes, that could work better than that. So, yes, thank you for your attention. You lovely people. We're all lovely people. This is Kristina.
Okay, hello. Okay, so this is an Earth Day pondering from David in South Australia for your 22nd, our 23rd, April 2023. Often in the early hours of the morning, as the day awakens and before I settle into meditative practice, in the quiet of my mind, I call into my attention a picture of the earth upon which we all dwell, and sadly, all too often take for granted. The earth that in its own way is ensouled and somehow sentient. We can all picture the earth as a living being. This picture, many of us would say, is not a mere humanly imposed personification. In this thought journey, we may imagine in that some way we are situated high above the earth, high up in its topmost airy realms. From there, we are looking down upon the earth. Its vast and variegated composition suffuses us with awe. There are the oceans with their mysterious depths, while on the ocean surfaces there are ceaseless circulations of restless waters, and ever-pulsing ebbs and flows, together with their gatherings and recedings. Interspersed with this are periods and places of motionless watery calms. And also in this, our vision, are the continents and lands, some of which are extensive, while other lands protrude from the oceans as small islands or jutting out as lumps of solid stone. And there are the mountains and the valleys, and the forests and the deserts. In the arching sky, there are occasional birds on the wing, flocks of birds, or some random birds in solitary flight. Although beyond our everyday sense perception, we know that in the great atmospheric heights are massive towering vortices of air. Some of these vortices are in ascending flow, some are in descending flow. These vortices are energetic. They revolve powerfully upon and within themselves. Metaphorically, we could imagine them as conduits between heaven and earth. On its axis, the earth turns ceaselessly, making for bands of light and shadow, and hence for day and night. These bands continually circle the globe. Birds and insects awaken with colorful sounds to each new dawn and continue to welcome the new awakening. From dawn to dawn, dusk to dusk, always an arising and a setting, and as a never-ending process of becoming and dying away. And in the day presides the regent of the sun, in its glorious bright, and in the night the regent of the moon, Both traverse the heights, but each according to its allotted mission. Many noetic sciences and indigenous peoples affirm that the earth is a sentient and souled being, and they speak of the earth's life as being incorporated in its natural rhythms. I have come to believe that such pictures are far more than noble poetic expressions. To me, they are indeed true imaginations. Events such as Earth Day can and will assist us to connect with such wonderful realities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So where do we go from here, Stuart?
Now,
I'd like to say something, friends, and then invite your comments.
you can turn it around to speak to me if you like.
I'd like to say something and then invite your comments, friends. And that is that the way the Center for American Studies at Concord works, we're not a 501c3, we're not an organization, we're a free cultural initiative, we're a fellowship. And so when, and I say this to the trustees, but also to the new friends, in terms of how we work, when someone bears an impulse, if we hear about it, they speak to us or someone mentions what they're doing, the question becomes, can we somehow serve that? That's our work as trustees, to serve new civilization and civilized impulses. And this is what's happened with David, an old friend. David has spoken to this over the years. And I've thought, what can we do? What can we do? Well, we are uniting this impulse today with Earth Day today, and tomorrow, Mother Earth and Father Sun Day, to bring together the earth and the sun, the solar forces and the earthly forces. So, David, do you want to pick up on that and just briefly, and then let's hear responses from those who've heard in perhaps the very beginning of this impulse you've borne for years in your 80s, to get responses from those that are here to how they've experienced what you've shared.
Thank you, Stuart.
I'm sorry.
I'll say a few words. The sun is very, very important for the communicators, because over the very many years in different traditions in the East and in the West, not every tradition, but many, many traditions, faith traditions, the sun is the giver of life and light. I think of the prologue from my Christian perspective of John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word, or Logos. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was a God. He was in the beginning with God, and so it goes forth. But this is speaking on a cosmic level of the Sun Spirit. This is how I interpret it. But the Sun Spirit has incarnated into the earth realm, and wishes to incarnate as a Sun Spirit and principle and presence of light and love and wisdom, the highest of our humanity, into us, not just in our minds only, but into our hearts and to our forces of will as well. So Earth Day and a Sunday together, because as I'm trying to allude to, it's the springtime in the hemisphere, whatever hemisphere you're in, it's springtime, is the time when the sun takes the lead. It's there all the time, of course, but this is a nodal point within the cycle of the natural year. And so, according to the communicators, as I call them, communicators, inspirers, if you want, the sun is not bound to a Christian expression the sun incarnated in all traditions. And we've mentioned in this little something I wrote that Kristina so beautifully read, that we have our indigenous people. So very important to listen. People who love the earth, live with the earth, know the earth, its soul. Know the soul of the earth is something we all need to have within us, not as a concept, but as a lived, deep experience. So in all religions, Islamic is more a moon religion, but there's a strong sun element in it as well. Hinduism, a sun element. Atheism, if we find atheists who are not dogmatic sectarian atheists or anti-God crusaders, but in every human being, irrespective of maturity and culture and place and time and development, has the seed of the sun that wants to ripen, mature and come to fruit. A very good combination, therefore, I think, of the Sun and Earth Day. And the whole quest is to bring the sun force, principle and power into the earth and into every human being. So that's where I'll leave it. I don't know if I can do much in Q&A and have question and answer, but I'm very happy to hear some comments, and you can say whatever comes from you truthfully, but thank you again.
Yes, so let's invite everybody, beginning with Susan on the right. We'll go around. People don't need to speak, but let's invite responses. We are inaugurating these intercultural festivals.
David,
So
can
yes.
you be all right?
Sorry?
Yes? I was wondering, I was very struck when you heard the words "save the children." And of course, in Australia, there's just a rampant problem of children who are enslaved, trafficked, who are tortured sexually and otherwise and murdered. And there's quite a trafficking flow there, as there are certain other places in the world. Could Save the Children have referred to that very dire need?
I hadn't thought of that before. Thank you, Susan. I took it this way, that such a response has many levels to it. It's not one thing. I found with what I received with Anne and through Anne somewhat, that when I pondered over some years of some of this material, that I found at least 3 levels of meaning. Even in the same text, the same wording could be read several ways, very purposely put that way. There were 1, 2, 3 levels, and sometimes up to 7 levels of meaning. And I've written volumes on that. I don't know if my interpretations are always correct, but I've made a fair try at this. I think what you're saying is very important. I was thinking, first of all, Susan, how much of education is driven by just pure, raw commercialism, people being trained up for jobs rather than an education to suit their future development and present development. Education is conceptual, not imaginative, not artistic enough, and without due understanding or care for child development, it's a violence very often. So I was taking that line, but what you say is equally of merit, and I thank you for that. I don't say no, I think it's probably yes. Thank you.
Let us go. Thank you, David. Let's go around the circle. Marin.
Maureen.
David, thank you. Thank you so much. It's good to see you. And there's a spirit that I feel when you speak. And this whole piece of the sun, we've been reading about this in our study group, and it seems like almost like a current what's being asked of us, almost as initiates. That this is almost like a sun initiation for humanity.
Yes, indeed.
So I'm wondering, I'm inspired by what you've shared, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are in terms of what would that look like. Do you have, because you were talking about spring on both sides of the planet, and what would is there a day that you have in mind?
Yes, I would think it would be on or near the spring equinox.
Okay, yeah, the equinox. Okay.
We don't, I have festivals here in my house. Kristina, you've been to one, haven't you? And we sometimes have them as big gatherings with many, many people in the city. I'm a long way from the city here. And I preside over those occasionally, but if it's not on the spring equinox, it's near. We don't have to be dogmatic, but the forces are on the uplift. It doesn't mean the other hemisphere that's going into the reverse is negated. They are part of it, but they express their festival within the winter conditions, or rather, I would say autumn conditions as we've got now. So it's not that they forfeit their own environmental season and the images and conditions thereof, but it's the springtime folk in that particular spring hemisphere that take the lead. And then, as I say, it swaps over because that's the earth rhythm in which the Christ moves. The Christ is a continual traveler across the earth. It's not a static, whatever the Christ is, it's not a static thing. It's also in day and night and the blossoming of the flower, all sorts of things. But I have more detail to this, which I can send through, and Stuart might even have this now. But I can say more, and sometimes I'll say, I don't really know. Let's see what we can work out together.
Okay, well, wonderful. And I'll pass it around because there's a number of people here, but I just wanted to share, this was an impulse I had with some of the biodynamic farmers in Mount Shasta. So we're actually we just started an impulse in Mount Shasta that I'm helping them with in terms of just bringing that farm alive. And that was the first thing that came to me is, what do we do in terms of, bringing in a festival for the land? So, but perhaps maybe being a part of this as a first step, and maybe, participating with you, then maybe that will give us an opportunity to delve deeper.
I'll just add to that quickly, if I may. That is, we have had some biodynamic farmers involved with this festival cycle in the past, and still have some who are interested. So it's a very good link. I'll be quite honest with you, I'm not very, as Stuart well knows, not very fluent. I'm a bit of a hermit in my mud brick house, and I don't have all the tech skills and accommodations, but I'll do my best to help, and I'll listen to advice because we create this together. It's not me dictating, as I said before. We build something.
David, welcome to this program. My name is Everton Davis. I'm a member of Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated.
Yes.
And I'm happy to hear the way you deliver your message. I want to say to you, as a cultural person from I was teenager, I was waiting for this type of collaboration. This movement is one of the most joyful movements the people are going to see. And it's going to be a change for the younger generation. So I want to congratulate you, and Stuart and all the members that I'm so proud to be a part of. And I'm waiting. I am one of them who are waiting. I think about this years. How beautiful it would be. It would look to have a spiritual entity throughout the universe that is connected. Because I wait for, all I can see is negative. We don't have much spiritual. The kids don't learn nothing that would keep them, would teach them how to love, real love, not sex love, but love mama, grandma, love the stranger. All of us becomes one. And I think this, what we are doing now, is the start to expand and explore all our beauty that the people are waiting for. So I just want to thank you, and I'm sorry if I try to extend myself too much, but I'm happy for you. So That's me. Sorry. Thank you.
No, sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll add something here. I'll add something here. These things will take time. We start in a small way with just a few people. And I'm not a marketing person. I just think we take the quality of our work, and that quality in itself will be potent because it is quality, and will bring people together because they are seeing something that's deep and real. So it'll market itself, but we'll see, it'll take its time. But secondly, if I may add, in the communications, as I call them, often it was said that everything is now in place for this to happen, but not just around the globe, not just around the globe, but the circuit of north to south, and there's a circuit, by the way, east to west, which is another dimension of the festivals I haven't even mentioned. Too complicated, just so complex for the minute. I'll explain this. I'm off track. The sun rising and moving east to west, and the Christ cycle with the festivals seasonally north to south can combine, but I'm leaving that complexity out of our discussion for the moment. It's another level for the future. But there is this circuit between heaven and earth, heaven and earth, earth and heaven. We don't mean this in an old double-decker universe as the ancients thought, but the heavens in us now, we're in the heavens. There's this circuit to the sun and back and beyond, we could say. The communicators say it's already in place, but they can't do anything about it unless we turn the switch on. If we activate it, they come on board, but we're free beings. They won't impose anything now upon us. It's our time to make the move, and if we ask for help, they will respond.
Thank you. Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you. Hi. Yeah, thank you, David and Kristina, for your wonderful discernments. Jatiding, Corin, greetings.
Corin, yes. Yeah, yes.
Happy Earth Day, happy In God We Trust Day, and happy holidays. Today's Eid too. David, when you touched on festivities that transcend boundaries, one of the most memorable times I have in college is the African Cultural Month. Every month, each country from Africa, descendants, we would pick a month that we would celebrate just our country for the country's culture. And every month, the students from a particular country will pick up the baton and decide how the culture is to be presented for that month. And one of the weekends, we have a major dinner, music, dance event, which we got the professors to be involved, the students to be involved, and families to be involved.
Yes.
And it was such a success. I think we did this for about 2-3 years. And I really wanted to pick up on this after college too. And when I went to Ethiopia, I actually put a proposal to African Union, and it was accepted, where we go to a different university in each country within Africa and then abroad, and get the students to participate in celebrating a particular country. And other cultures could also be involved, and this could be a global phenomenon, where you have major international cultural events happening at university level. And when you get the university level students involved, you get their downline families,
and upline adults. Because that's such a critical movement age. And they actually, you know, college kids have a lot of energy. And they have a lot to share. And this will be one way to get the college kids acclaimed, not only to the cultures, but also listen to the echoes and sounds that their culture is echoing, how it could participate with the rest of the cultures around the world. And then take back to each homeland what would serve them and bring connections that would serve the homeland as well. So I think hopefully this is one thing that we could bring as a collective here with where we are in terms of seeing the benefit of these kind of events taking roots. Not only in our backyards, but because we're all international beings and because this is Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated.
That's right.
And Center for American Studies, and you know, and David, you are where you are as well. So and hopefully, and Andrew Network being Andrew Networks, this is something we could really coordinate and bring into fruition with all the other events that are already happening. Could just be a supplement.
Well, now that we've got David down, David, now that we have you and we've begun, why don't we continue on a weekly basis, a planning session to make it this reality at your convenience?
The answer is yes. I'll just have to find my way to do the Zooms. I might have to get a new computer and teach myself a few new skills, but the answer, yes, we'll find a way.
Excellent. Excellent.
Awesome. Yeah. So thank you. I mean, this is really the kind of
You going that way?
he kind of just picked for me a little bit.
That's good.
So,
Greetings, Honorable David, Kristina, honorable
Yes.
dignitaries. So blessed to be here with the eyes.
Can I introduce you?
Yes, that's honorable.
Okay. I would like to introduce the honorable.
Well, get yourself on camera.
I would like to introduce the Honorable International President Dwight. He's the International President for Ethiopian World Federation and Comma Incorporated.
oh, wonderful. Thank you.
And they drove here, the dignitaries drove here, or I did too. I kind of tagged along on the ride from New York.
Yes.
But here you go.
Humble,
So
blessed
good
and
to me.
accept Honorable Queen Huda Sinduri
Okay.
and Honorable Corin Smith, Honorable Jah Tiden, once again, Honorable David. Yes, I am Dwight Christopher Stafford Douglas. And she, Honorable Queen Huda Sinduri, introduced us as the international president. What I would like to say is our Constitution, Article 11 of our Constitution speaks of national holidays. We do embrace National Holiday July 23 for the birth of Christ, Emperor Haile Selassie, and Maskal, and other Ethiopian celebration.
Yes.
As far as locally, what's been going on additionally, as far as celebrations with the Caribbean communities in America, we have a day that's called Labor Day in November. November 9th.
September, right?
September 9th, Labor Day, which the Caribbeans come together and they continue a festival since Honorable Queen Huda Sinduri was talking about Africa and so forth. This is a continuation from such time that came into the Caribbean. That is once a year. I heard you spoke of twice a year and bringing together a national holiday within the festival. And that's more potent, twice a year and together collectively. I support due to the fact that it's something that is strengthening what we had at one time, that situation arises that diminish to a level right now. There are many conflicts within this celebration. And how would that be tempered, you know? So, you know, having the festival twice a year is great. Within all the violence, you know, here and there, with the support of the violence, and with this celebration, we're able to balance that force. I will see, I know that is the direction within the peaceful movement. So within that, we can be able to bring more sports events too within the community, that, you know, they wouldn't have to focus upon the weapon. Give thanks.
Testify.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. We're not, you're quite correct. There are so many challenges in the world, in particular the parts of the world that you speak, but here in Australia too, everywhere. We try and develop a culture of art and of listening and of exchange. And we'll make mistakes and we won't be perfect in this, and sometimes we'll say and do things that are not of our best and highest self. And it doesn't matter, I'm trying to say to myself as well, it doesn't matter at first how many people are involved. If just 2 or 3 are gathered together to bring some focus, attention, and heart and mind to it, it's a wonderful thing for the community. It's not just some sort of vague, abstract, conceptual idea. It's a force that will radiate out. It doesn't mean it will overcome all these difficulties, but it'll be a balance and a healing force. So that's all I can say. I understand what you're saying too. It's very important that it's said. Thank you for that.
Interesting.
Well, David, thank you very, very much.
Yeah, Corey, they may want to speak.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Yes, there's someone else to speak.
Why don't you introduce him, Andrew?
oh, David, this is Andrew Williams Jr. I believe that.
Hello, Andrew.
Well, as I told you, David.
Nice to see you in person. Nice to see you in person, yes.
Mutually so, mutually so. As I told you, my first childhood friend was named David. So I'll always have close to my heart, David.
That's very generous of you to me, but thank you, yes.
Well, certainly, also, as you know, Andrew, the name Andrew has many meanings and connotations as well. From a biblical standpoint, of course, it was Andrew that opened the door to Jesus for Peter, his brother. And so I accept that role as a door opener as well around the world. So please count on me to open as many doors as I can to connect you together. And with this immediate outreach you have from the Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated, I'll help to connect that dot as well. So I look forward to working with you and all of you to create peace on earth during our lifetimes.
Beautiful. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
So Corin Smith or John Tidings, would either of you like to introduce yourselves, or may I be so kind? Don't rush. I'll just throw you in front. So Corin Smith, you know you're first up. This is my brother Corin Smith. He and I have been connected since 2009. And Bermuda is the first place I've ever visited outside the United States. It was Corin and his mentor that invited me there, where Kula is now living there. And so I was able to connect those dots. But I've been the founder of a think tank since 1984. And it was Corin's work in 2004 that led to us meeting in 2009 through another think tank. So we're together been collaborating on think tank solutions for not just Bermuda. It began as the strategic operational understanding for a national development system of sanctuary, sounds of sanctuary. Dealing with these issues, David, that you're dealing with now, which is violence in the underserved community, that could only be connected when you connect together the top 1% and the bottom 1% with 100% participation, in our case through edutainment or entertainment and collaboration. So your idea of a festival with sports and activities, it speaks to my heart. So Corin Smith, would you like to introduce yourself or Jot Tidings before I pass the baton to Stuart Weeks? Now's your time. 3,
Thank you.
2. All right, over to you, Stuart. Oh, Judy's around.
Wait a minute, wait. I would say that the various levels of participation, sports,
Thank
is
you.
one of them. As long as we keep on theme, I know in my teaching experience with the Mikael festivals, we call it, and other festivals, we had games and all sorts of different activities. Whatever brings manifest focus and love and attention to the theme, that's so wonderful. Thank you.
Excellent. Over to you, Stuart Weeks.
Well, I think, David, we've done a deed. We've done a deed in this lifetime of yours while you're still with us.
They didn't.
Corinne and Ya, are you there? Do you hear? Would you like to say a word? Corinne's a little shy. It's hard to get a word out of him.
Yeah, right. Then it's hard to get to stop.
Does somebody, do you want to call him and tell him we're inviting him?
Maybe both of them are like into it already.
What is Anne aware of what we're doing, David?
Very interesting. I tried to get her for weeks, certainly in the last week, couldn't get hold of her. And I tried yesterday and she picked up the phone and she's delighted. And she is with us too in spirit. She and I are not now working together in this way. And we have infrequent contact, but we have every time we ring or meet an enormous love still for each other in the work. So it's my responsibility now to try and interpret and bring this to some sort of fruit. And she feels she's done her part. She was delighted when I told her this meeting and this conference was happening.
Thank you, David, for sharing that. Well, please convey to her, I think I can say for everybody here, please convey our gratitude to her for her contribution, her essential contribution. Because what you really described is the archetypal way in which women and men can work together. As you well know, the women, if they're rightly supported, can lift and open their souls to the spiritual world, and then they can convey that to the men to help to fashion it into a form of expression. So I think, so please convey to her our heartfelt thanks. And also, Kristina, thank you very much. And I think we do have, thank you very much for what you brought. And I think we do have Corinne and perhaps Ya. Are you there, Corinne? He's become a bit shy.
Okay,
Hi.
good day. Good night, everyone. Good to see everybody in the center of the center.
Well, it depends where you're living. You know, there's a bit of center here as well.
Connected to the other side of the universe, the other side of the world there in Australia. Yes, I'm glad to see the team come together and play our part. Salutes to make it happen, you know. So yes, thanks for sharing this moment together and sharing it with us here in Bermuda. Look forward to getting bigger and better from here.
Good. Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's right. Well, David, Kristina, thank you so very much. We love you very, very much. And we're going to wrap up this segment. But we'll be available every week if you like, David. I'll arrange that with Stuart and we'll have an action plan.
Well, we'll work on this. We'll work on this and let you know. It's all a bit sudden for me, but I'm sometimes I need a bit of a push. But thank you very much. We'll work on this. Thank
Well,
you.
you've clearly got an angel over your left shoulder, so perhaps she can give you a nudge.
Well, don't worry, David. I'll be meeting every week. You can come in when you get ready or not. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you so much, David.
All the best for tonight. All the best for the rest of today and for tomorrow. I'll be with you as well. And all the best.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Lots of love.
Bye.
Love.
Love you all.
Thank you. Happy Earth Day.
End it with that.
You ready to go? You ready to go to town? She's like, I'm ready to go. This is what this means.
I was.